Hello, beautiful people. Thanks. You're about to watch one of the most emotional um, interviews I've done. I'm so honored with George the Giant Slayer. And also, we're going to talk gossip about royal family. But please, I want to thank all of you who bought a raffle ticket. It is to fix these two bathrooms, make them into full toilets and showers for the people at the shelter that I have, and to extend the shelter. Click on the link on the video description and in the pinned comment. It's less than $6 to get a raffle ticket, and thanks to all of you who bought it. We're only 150 tickets away from selling the raffle, finishing the raffle. I set out to do 1,000, and you guys are an amazing community. Thanks to the YouTubers who posted and even bought tickets. So thank you very much, and I hope wholeheartedly you enjoy this video, because I was in tears. Yeah, and please don't forget to subscribe to George the Giant Slayer and show him love. He's unbelievable. I'm blown away. And also, we gossip a lot. So at the end, not gossip, but we trade information. Yes, but don't forget to buy your raffle ticket. Beautiful people, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Again, George the Giant Slayer. You rock, baby. Hello, beautiful people. You know that this is going to be a conversation. Basically, George the Giant Slayer, whom we all love. George, everybody loves George. By the way, tomorrow we have the Royal Miss. Hopefully you can make it. But we're going to talk. Well, he's going to talk, because I just love what he says. And you know what, I wanted you to talk a little bit first about your story, and then what I really wanted to talk to you about, because
Right.
I am blown away by this, George. I want to see your input on this. I've seen TV channels and big platforms. They said that YouTube should cancel Thomas Markle Jr. for that joke he made about Meghan Markle. That they have to cancel the platform, his YouTube channel, because they found that joke he made. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I
It's
haven't seen it, but no one should be canceled for something that they say. I mean,
it's
we're talking about
case.
words.
Yeah, nobody. He put on a wig, and then he pretended he was wearing a moon bump, and he was pretending to give birth. But even then, it's a bad joke. But I'm shocked at it's world news. How
Right.
he's vile. How he should be canceled. How they should remove his platform for a bad joke.
Yeah, I don't believe in the cancel culture. I think that's the exact opposite. Like, it's always simple. Everyone should be able to say whatever they want to. And then people can decide, do I want to listen to this person? Do I want to support this person? Or do I not want to? The power should be in people's hands. Because let's say it's how cancel culture is how you crush good ideas. And at the same time, it's how you force bad ideas into the shadows. You want to have all access to the information. If someone's doing something bad, you don't want them to be hidden away from the world. You want them to be able to freely speak, share their mind. And so then you can have that information and decide, no, I don't like what this person's saying. Or, yes, I love what this person is saying. So I don't believe in that. No one should be canceled over that. I don't care if you're left, right, center, whatever.
Do you feel that when did you start your YouTube? Well, I want you to start a little bit. I want to ask you a question just briefly before you start a little bit with your story. When you started your YouTube channel, do you feel that the freedom of speech is severely hindered compared to now, from when the time you started, or is it the same?
I feel everything's pretty much the same. I haven't seen that much. I haven't seen that much difference. I've seen difference in society, not on YouTube.
Ah, okay.
I've seen a difference in society. The only thing I would add to the last thing I was saying is the only thing I think should never be aired. So is anything that's going to harm children. Honestly.
Absolutely.
I just want that. I know it's like, I used to say it goes without saying, but it needs to be said because too many people still want to harm them.
Yeah, it's absolutely disgusting. You and I were talking about this furries thing, and at the beginning, I thought you were joking, because
No.
basically you're talking about a fetish, which is basically being imposed. I actually, you know what? I almost asked you, don't tell me that they're now identifying as furries.
Oh, they're identifying as animals. The problem is that they're impacting children. That's the problem. Look, adults are adults. They can do whatever they want in the privacy of their home. If it doesn't harm me, it doesn't harm you. It's like do no harm. You go, you do you live your life. I'll live my life. Good luck. God bless. But when they start bringing it down to society and start impacting kids and start harming them with what I was sharing with you about that article and what the reporter was talking about, no. that's where you cross the Rubicon. You've gone too far.
Yeah, I mean that, and you know why it's so really bad? Because children are malleable. You know, they are basically they don't know the world, and this is the reason why you're the adult, because you're supposed to guide them and not make things more confusing for them. You know, I mean that's my opinion.
No,
Anyways,
absolutely. They are. But the kids that I was talking to you about,
uh-huh.
I'll send you the link. You can,
I
the
saw
kids,
your ex. I was reading your post, but I was looking for dogs because in the post said something about the furry. So I thought, oh, dogs are biting the kids, you know? Because
yeah,
sorry, my mind doesn't go there, George.
believe me, I understand you completely. Now, these are people who put on outfits and pretend, or they say that they identify as dogs or cats or whatever animal. The problem is that you had the kids, because we're talking about how kids are malleable. These children are having to grow up very quickly, the ones who are standing against them, because they're like, hey, we're getting attacked here. We're getting bitten and barked at. We just want to go to school, do our work, have a good time, and then go home.
Yeah.
It's nuts. I didn't even know this existed until
No,
the other day.
no, but I was looking because I saw it and I'm like, oh my God, somebody's letting dogs out. You know, why aren't these? That's the first thing that came to my mind. Why aren't these dogs on leash? Because
Right.
and I'm like, I didn't understand, guys. If you read that comment, I'm actually gonna leave that link because I'm gonna link your ex account and everything. But I'm particularly gonna link that article you have there because now that you explained it, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, I spent like 6 or 8 minutes like an idiot trying to look for real dogs that were going to bite the kids or so. I didn't understand it. But anyways, so please do tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started in
Mm.
YouTube, and where are you on your YouTube channel right now, and why do you like Darth Vader and not
Yeah.
Meghan?
Well, I started the YouTube channel George the Giant Slayer, which it stems from the fact that at the age of 7, I was kidnapped. It's like my mother and father got divorced the year before. And obviously, my father didn't take it well. And what he decided to do was he framed it like, we're going to go on a surprise trip, George. What do you think about that? Because I would see him every other weekend. So, of course, you tell a kid, I didn't know anything about that. He was my dad. He's like, you tell him, we're going to take a surprise trip. What do you think if we go for 2 or 3 weeks? I'm like, hell yeah. But then as time progressed, month after month, he's like, what if we stayed a month? What if we went to Greece? What if we went to London? And he's like, what if we did it in the school year? Of course, you tell a 6.5 going on 7-year-old kid, we're going to get to miss school and go have an adventure. He's like, just don't tell your mother. So that like kind of rang a bell in me, not on an intellectual level, but just something felt bad about it. Well, eventually I told my mother because the months had passed and he would be buying all these supplies, toys, hunting gear, just everything for a full life, like to start over. So I told her, she confronted him. He's like, oh no, it's the kid's imagination. Look what the divorce has done to him. It's your fault.
Oh my God, so he was blaming you, he was gaslighting you, like, no,
No,
he's lying, I'm not doing all these things.
yes. Yeah. He was saying, no, it's his imagination. You should feel
Oh my
bad for him.
God.
And this is why we shouldn't be divorced and yada, yada, yada. So my mother then went and checked, because I kept insisting this is real. And so she had checked all the airlines, checked, passports to everything, went everywhere. There's no tickets in my name. There's nothing, because I kept telling her it's coming. We're going to be leaving soon. And then when he had told me the date it was going to happen, I shared that with her too. And she's like, George, nothing's going to happen. You're going to be fine. And in October, when I was 7 years old, I told her that morning, she dropped me off at school. I said, I'm not going to see you again. I don't want to go. And she's like, George, again, you're going to be fine. So my dad had the school pull me out of class saying I had a dentist appointment, I think it was, or a medical appointment of some kind. We're driving to the airport and I'm like, he's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I really do not want to go. I love you.
How old were you there? How old were you there?
7. I was like, I don't want to go. And he's like, it's okay if you don't want to go. So he started this game. And the game was pretty much like he would pick landmarks. Okay, when you see this, we had this place called the Galleria, massive shopping complex, multiple stories. Like, okay, we're on the highway. He goes, if you still don't want to go by the time we get to the Galleria, you just tell me and we'll exit. So we get there. I'm like, okay, all of a sudden I'm filled with hope. We pass the Galleria. I'm like, well, wait, what's going on? He's like, well, you didn't tell me in time. So he kept doing that to the airport. Well, you tell me for the next one and the next one. He's like, oh, I missed the exit. That hope was actually very destructive because, you're like, okay, this is going to be fine. I love my dad, love my mom. I'm going back tomorrow. We end
My
up,
ex did that to my son. Our son, he did that to our son, but in different ways. So my son is like, it really shatters you.
oh, yeah, it can do that. It can do that because you're like, okay, everything is going to work out. So we get to the airport and it kind of started the same thing. I'm like, I really don't want to go. He's like, you've never been on a plane before, at least not since you were a baby. Why don't we have this adventure? We're going to go to, I think it was Amsterdam first or London. I can't recall which one came first. We'll go on the plane. If you don't like it by the time we get there, we'll turn around. So cool. We get on the plane. We get to our destination. I'm like, I would like to go back. He's like, okay, let me go get you a ticket. And I'm like, what? He's like, I'm not going back with you. But you said, he's like, no, I'll put you on the plane. You go back and we're fine. And I just was torn. I was like, how can I do that? He's like, why don't you think about it? So we did this as we bounced around Europe. We finally got into Greece. And the second we got into Greece, it's like his entire persona, who he was, changed. We get through customs after they checked all our bags. We walk out of the airport and he was flagging down a cab. And it's like, I told him bye-bye in Greek. I was like, I want to go back. And he it was the oddest feeling. It was, he grabbed my hand, but not like as a father would do to a son, to assure him like, okay, because their car's coming for safety. It was more like looking at a monster who was just crushing your hand. It's like, no, don't bring this up again. And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Like, I didn't recognize. It was just
like a
that.
switch, right? It's like a switch.
Yeah.
Oh my God, when I hear you talk about that, I wish I could explain it like you do, Giant and George, because it's exactly the same thing, but you're putting everything into words. Sorry but go for it. Yeah.
No. So that's
you scared when he switched like that?
I was numb. I think I was stunned. I don't know. I couldn't put it into words. It was just more of a feeling like, I guess a part of me was scared, but it was more like, who is this? It's like I didn't recognize him. It's like I could see it was my father, but I'm like, it didn't feel or sound like my dad.
Did you try to get in touch with your mom?
Oh,
because your mom must have been freaking out.
Oh, yeah, because she went to pick me up after school. Because I had to find out a lot over the years when I came back, when she heard that it happened. She went like any mother. She went nuts. She was crying, screaming. I've been told she was in the streets looking for me.
I would absolutely die.
Right. The problem is that he had used a lot of friends, I guess, of theirs, and some, I don't know what you would call them, that they're not relatives, but kind of like relatives. And he had gotten them to help. And so when she had gone to these people, knowing that he would go to them, they're like, oh no. So they were all lying to her for this whole time when I was telling her what was going to happen. And she went back to them. She's like, what did you do? He's like, well, he told us how mean and cruel and what a bad, like he had just puffed this whole story up. And my mom was an angel.
Wrong with these people? They're all the same. These predators, behaviors. You must have been. But do tell us when you got to Greece. I just wanted to ask you because I know people will ask, where was the mother?
No, my mother had done everything under the sun possible. She even took me to a therapist because she's like, I've tried everything. George just keeps saying the same thing. And of course, the therapist was like,
no, she took you to therapist because she didn't believe what your father was saying.
No, she was like, there's something wrong. She wanted to understand why I wouldn't stop talking about this. Because she's like, I checked everything out, George. There are no tickets for you in your name. There's no passports. You can't go anywhere. I have papers from the lawyers. The school knows you can't be picked. Like, she had taken every precaution. So she's like, I've safeguarded you. She goes, so no one can touch you. So the last thing she did was she took me to this therapist, and the therapist was like, oh no, it's in his mind. He's a kid. He's making same thing. He's like, he's just making it up. It's just, he can't handle the divorce. And so she's like, oh, okay. I feel better. At least as a mom, I did everything possible. I listened to him. I've safeguarded him. But now the therapist also told me that it's in his mind. Of course, when that
Yes, your
therapist
mothers
did
are very
that, I was so pissed. I had these toys I was playing with. I just remembered I was on the floor. I think I either threw them at him or because I was like,
oh, and
what?
he's even aggressive.
Yeah, it didn't help it didn't help me. So we're in Greece and we stayed, I think, about a month in Athens. And as we were with his sister in Athens and her family, and while they were around, during that time period, specifically when they were around, he was kind of like my old dad. And I would keep talking to him. He's like, I'd like to talk to mom. He's like, oh, I've talked to her. She's okay. She's fine. She's a little sick now, I think was one of his stories. So we'll call her in a few weeks and check on her because she needs to get rest or recover. She'll be here soon. That he would always tell me she'll be here soon. And when he would say that, I was like, she's going to be here. Okay, everything's going to be okay. So that would kind of last for like a day or so until I would bug him again. When is she coming? Eventually, we went high up into the mountains in Greece in this village called Potamos, the river. And that's when everything changed because I refused to stop. He's like, you can't speak English because I would continue speaking English. I can't speak English anymore. Greek only. Anytime you speak English, you get a spanking. Okay.
Oh my God, George.
So it would start that way and it would progress where I wouldn't let up on him. And then one day he just beat the holy hell out of me. I'm like,
I want to
why?
meet your dad and punch him. I'm sorry.
Oh, he passed away a few years
I'm
ago.
sorry.
Oh, no. I had called him, funny enough. I called him after not speaking to him for 25 years because I heard he had a heart attack. And I told him, I just want you to know so you can pass in peace. I forgive you. He's like, I don't have any son. I'm like, I didn't say my name, but obviously you know who I am. What do you mean you don't have a son? Like he still had this anger, this animosity, this venom. I'm like, you can go in peace. Good luck. God bless. Talk to you later. But after he had beaten me that day, it progressed. And he's like, it started happening every day. And from beating, it was torture. Tied me up in a basement. That would happen every day. And he'd say, I want one thing from you. I've sacrificed everything for you. He goes, I could go to jail. Your dad could go to jail because of his love for you, that I took you out of the US. I took you away from your crazy family. I mean, just all kinds of stuff. Talking about parent alienation. He would say things about my mother or my grandparents. And he's like, this will all stop once you understand how much I love you. The moment you tell me you don't love your mother, guess what? It's over. And I refused. And that just drove him insane. So this would go on, day in and day out. And he's like, do you love your mother? I'm like, absolutely. Whack. He's like, I guess you're going to stay down here and not eat today. Come back a few hours later. You love your mother? Absolutely. I don't think I said absolutely, but I said yes. And so that's where like a lot of these figures come from, the collectibles. It's because I can't put it into words. I couldn't put it into words, obviously, when I was 7. I would just have images. You're sitting there alone in a basement, or you're getting beat outside by a chicken coop. And I would remember my grandmother's stories because she used to work with the Greek and British underground, the Greek underground, to hide British soldiers during World War II. And then she was sent to Auschwitz and she survived there for 3 years.
Oh my
And
God.
so I would hear these stories, like, I guess from the cradle, but they kind of like, they sink into you.
They stay with you.
And she would tell me how she would stay strong when she was tortured. Like every time they hit her, she said it made her iron. So I would think about that. And I'm like,
You have strong women in your family, don't you?
oh yeah, strong women, strong men. My granddad
Your
also.
mom, I haven't met her, but I love her. What a great lady, What a
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. She's an angel. And my granddad also, he survived 3 years in Auschwitz. That's where he met my grandmother. But so when her stories, I would remember them about how she would turn to iron. I thought of Superman, Man of Steel, that just the Justice League cartoons. I think of burgers, 4th of July, just anything kind of like a thread.
that made you escape. It was like escapism, isn't it? Where you escape to so you don't face reality, right?
In a way, but it wasn't kind of like a disconnect. It was more like fuel. It was just something. It was like my own place where he couldn't touch me, but they gave me the strength to keep saying no, which again, It just flipped him out. So I was stubborn. I was like, I love my mom. I'm not going to say I don't. And eventually, after 6 months,
6 months?
well, this went on for months. In between, my mother showed up.
She did?
Yeah, they had some type of, I haven't gotten the full picture yet, but my grandparents didn't want her to go, right? Because they're like, you're going to go there. And my father's brother, who had a construction company, and he was very tied into the government. And so my father, obviously I didn't know this at the time, but he was talking to my mother, trying to get her to come over there. He's like, don't try to kidnap him or get him back or take him away, because if you step foot in Greece, I'll have the country locked down. I know people in the government. Da, da, da. Like, it's not going to work. The only way you're going to see him is if you move to Greece. So by what she told me is that she had come in Christmas, and I hope I'm not wrong in this aspect. She had come in Christmas, so I'd seen her, and I hadn't seen her at this point for 3 months. And it was, I think they were there to discuss how it would work out. Now, my grandparents were flipped out, because they're like, our daughter's going to go there. He's not going to let her go. He's going to abuse her, and she's lost. But after about 3 weeks, then she left. It's like when I saw her, I'll never forget it. We were in Salonika, because we came down from the mountains and we met in Salonika. And she was staying at my grandfather's uncle's. And she had this Snoopy with her. It's like, it's just, I saw her. I felt both the most excited I ever was, but kind of also like out of your body. It was a weird moment. Yeah. It was like, I didn't know how to act, because I didn't want her to know what was going on, because she
you still want to protect her, kind of thing?
Kind of, because I was like, I can't tell her, because she's like, are you okay? Oh, great.
Oh, God, horrible.
Well, because I can't sit here and tell her. I was like, what would it do to her? Again, I couldn't put these things in the same words that I'm doing now, but a part of me knew, is like, how am I going to, it's like, I'm living in hell over here. Yeah. Is everything right? No, I'm living in hell. No, I was like, it's fine. I'm doing great. I miss you, but good. Are you eating? Are you this? So we would hang out every day. And she would bring me all these Snoopies. And after eventually, when I was rescued, because she left, something didn't work out. And my grandfather wanted her back. And she was supposed to, by what I understand, she told me, she was supposed to go back home and then I guess get her stuff together, organized, and then come back. But then in between, he had sent a letter to my grandmother about, he's like, if you want to see George again, you need to send like $75,000, which I later read in my teen years when she shared it with me. Because she's like, you really want to know more about your father? I said, I know who my father is. Not a good person.
It would surprise you, though. You'd be surprised.
You know what? After what I went through, I wasn't surprised. I was just surprised that I was like, that's all he asked? Like, wow. So it was kind of like, it was just odd. It was surreal that he actually asked for money, because the way that he would frame my mother's side of the family to me was like the ultimate evil, bad people, money hungry. And my granddad spent $500,000 on detectives, investigators to find me, because when they didn't know where I was at. When I was back in the States and I was about 14, my grandmother showed me, you see all these pictures? We saw you. We had detectives there. We had people who were former military. They'd caught pictures of me going to school. And this is a mountain village with like 300 people in it at the time. The problem is they didn't know how to grab me. The only way, because his brother had all his political connections, they're like, the only way to do this is to carry him through the Bulgarian mountains, but it's wintertime. The kid's not going to survive. So like, we have to wait till summer. So this would go on, and my mother left.
Did you ever feel like saying to your dad when he beat you up, yes, I don't love her, just so he would stop and then continue loving her?
My mother asked me that all the time. I refused. My mother's like, why didn't you just say what he wanted to say? I said, because it felt wrong. Like the lie of it. I just didn't betrayal. I can just say I wouldn't betray her. I didn't know it at the time. Like, I didn't put it in my conscious mind. I'm not going to betray her. I just refused to lie about it. was like, no, I love my mother. It was like my ground. It's like my Plymouth Rock. This is where I stand.
Yeah, it's like if you feel that if part of you, you know what, it's the same thing with my son George. It's like he's always been a stubborn kid, and it's like he picks up he feels that if you remove something from them, that it's him. It's like everything else around him, it doesn't make sense. I don't know. He's studying aerospace engineering in Canada, so I don't understand anything he talks about, except when he tells me he loves me and he misses me. But then when he tells me about his projects, I don't get anything. But it's like that. And I asked him one time, and I said, Henrik, why didn't you just, and he goes, I no. I just, if I did that, it's like giving in, and then I wouldn't be able to continue that.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know. You
The-
were so
I
young
understand.
though.
I
You were like
know.
7? You were
I
7?
7, and I tried. Believe me, I told the teachers at school what I didn't know at the time, which I learned later, because I ran away multiple times, like trying to walk off the mountain. And I would tell the teacher at school, and I'd be like, "Look, I got bruises, I got cuts," and she's like, "Oh, I feel so bad for you." I didn't know my dad had told them all that he was saying I was doing this to myself because my mother was ill or had passed. I got 2 stories from that. So he had set this up everywhere I would go. So anyone that I went to, they looked at me like, oh, this is the kid who's like broken because of his mother, and he makes stuff up. And I'd be like, look at this. And he had told him, well, he throws himself downstairs and I got to protect him. So help me protect him. Like just all this insanity.
That
So,
must have affected your psyche, because basically what he was doing, from what I understand, is he was making you not relevant, as though your word didn't matter, people not to trust
uh,
or believe you. So no matter, and that is horrible. That is horrible thing to do to a human being, especially a child, because later on you may even grow up thinking that nobody will believe you no matter what you say.
right. It pissed me off. I guess I have a different way. It was anger. It angered me because I felt frustrated. Again, I didn't know what was going on. I felt at that time I was like living in the twilight zone. I'm like, it's like you see the scars, and they're like, oh, they would act like they were cuddling someone who, again, like someone
You're
who,
self-harming. Basically, he
right,
was
who
saying
was,
self-harming, and he was trying to protect you from yourself.
and it was later when I found out, years later. Oh, I had a few conversations with a few people, to put it mildly, but it also at the same time made me, which is odd for some people to understand. It made me who I am. It made me stronger. I
I
wouldn't
perfectly
do. I
understand.
wouldn't do. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But I was like, I refuse, and that was kind of like how the channel came about. It's just the way that I live my life. I refuse to bend to evil. I refuse to allow it to mold me. You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm
No,
going
I,
to
I
take.
completely understand. People would say to me and Henrik, why don't you just give up? Let it go. It's like, and I'm like, no, because it's not right. I'm going to die on this cross, kind of thing. But how were you rescued? I mean, how were you rescued? I mean,
That's a long story. But what happened is we had this a man in our family. Wasn't blood. He was an uncle. We called him an uncle.
I
Someone
know
my
we have the
grand
same in Latin America. It's like very good friends. This is your uncle. It's like, you're not related.
right, and he showed up one day. We had gone in the beginning of the summer. We had gone to Athens, back to my dad's sister's house, and I went outside, and this guy walks up in a suit. He's like, "Hi, I'm your uncle. You're George." And of course, I didn't trust anybody. By this point, I didn't trust anybody. I didn't know who was who, what was what. I was like, showed me a picture of my mother. I was like, okay. He started talking to me for a minute. He pulled out a Snoopy. I was like, all right, okay. I think he's okay. And he's like, we're going to go home. Um, the next thing I know, he's like, let's walk back to your house, to your dad. We go by, get to the door. I tell my father, I was like, this is Uncle so-and-so. And his face went white.
Oh my God.
All I know is 24 hours later, we were on a plane, and that was it. Now, this uncle used to work for the government, did work for the government, didn't work. He was one of those people that whenever he went somewhere, it's like the room would stop. So when he showed up and I saw my father, it just kind of everything changed instantly. And now my mother has told me that part of that was that she had convinced my father to let me come back. This is what she told me, that she had convinced him to let me come back for my birthday, and that she wanted to spend a birthday with me, and then she would fly me back and everything would be okay. My uncle tells me on his side that he had a conversation with him, and there were a few people with him, and basically said, I'm taking George. Damn your connections and everything else. So you have to, it's like I've never known which is the actual.
No, just be thankful you got the
Oh,
hell
yeah.
out of it. You know? And when
But
you got to the US, how did you
that
feel?
that was, again, one of the most peculiar sensations. I couldn't speak English at the time. I only knew how to say hamburger. We get to Intercontinental Airport, and there was this huge plate glass windows. Just they looked towering like giants to me. And I'm with my uncle, and we're coming down the escalator, and I see my family on the other side of them. They're like jumping up and down. And they had these signs, and I'm wearing a suit. But inside of me, I was nervous, a bit numb, a bit kind of like disconnected from my body, but thrilled. So when we get out there, it's like my mother's crying, but smiling, and my granddad and my uncle. And all I could say was hamburger. So it was the only word to me. I thought it meant, I had forgotten that hamburger meant hamburger. I had connected it with love. So I kept using the word hamburger in exchange for love. So they thought I was hungry. So my mother and her best friend, who had driven her there, because my mom had gotten agoraphobia after all that. I mean, she went through a lot. Couldn't drive by herself and go far. And so what happened is that they drove all night to get me a hamburger. And I'm sitting here trying to explain, and her best friend's like, you hungry? This is what you wanted? I'm telling her in Greek, I don't know, I love you. She's like, oh, and they started clicking because my mom's like, you speak English, speak. And I was like,
So you had blocked how to speak English.
yeah, because I couldn't, because anytime I would say a word, I'd get hit. And, but within a matter of, I think, a couple of weeks, I was pretty much back to being a chatterbox in English. It took a while. And then we started getting calls from my father. And then threats, a couple of times he talked to me. He's like, you know what's going to happen if you don't get back here. I said, I'm free now. Bye. I was just, and
did he ever apologize to you or admit what he did was
oh
wrong?
my God, no. He's like, I did it all for you, and you threw it back in my face after I sacrificed the world for you. No father on the planet would do this for you, risk their lives. This shows what a real father is. I was like, beating the hell out of me, torturing me. I mean, he took I don't know how you say it in English. It's called a vita. Like he would take branches with thorns in them and strike my. I mean, just we're talking about it. Would shred.
In Spanish, they call them coyundas. Here, they actually, yeah, coyunda. Like when they come at you with that, and you run, you know.
Yeah, but I couldn't run because I was tied down. The thing is after 6 months, I actually have shared this in the book, but after 6 months, the beatings had stopped. But we'd have to talk about that at another time because that's a it's a really long story, and it's one I've actually never publicly talked about. Funny enough, it's just it's part of kind of like how I say I started the channel because I defeated my first giant at 7. Well, he was the first giant, and I had to. How do I explain this?
Well, you can. But put
No,
it
but
at work.
I'm
Your work comes out first, George. George, this is, I mean, I swear to
right. No,
you,
no, it's
I have
because
you here because I think you are so powerful. Your words are so powerful. Your stories so powerful. And I mean, just listening to you, it's unbelievable, you know, like such a little kid, how you were literally made an adult, you know, and you didn't know you were being forced to become an adult. You were having
yeah.
adult experiences at 6 and 7 years of age, you know, and you were making decisions because that was a choice you made. That was a decision you made. I am not going to tell him I don't love my mom, you know, like,
You know,
and
she
then when you
thought I
tell
was
your mom, you're
stupid.
not going to tell her I'm hurting.
Right. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. No, she thought for years she would tell me, "Why did you do such a stupid thing?" Ooh, it's like she should just tell him whatever he wants to hear. Later, I would tell her it just felt wrong. I don't know. You want to call it honor? I didn't want to betray her. I'm just someone who's very much about the truth, about fact. It's also why I find a lot that goes on in the culture today. Why I like to point it out. I cannot stand lies. It's like, to me, they're the core of almost everything that's rotten, lies and pride. But no, I had stood up to him in a way that got him to stop. We'll put
So
it
he
that way.
stopped beating you. He stopped beating you after a while.
Oh yeah, yeah. That night
He gave up. He gave up.
he gave up. He gave up, and it's odd. Yeah, he gave up, and we had this kind of a confrontation. Again, I'm 7. I can't beat the guy. Can't do anything like that. Uh, he wasn't someone who had a controlled temper, but
God,
yeah,
George.
but I dealt with it. I dealt with it in a manner which I was. It's basically this. My father had taught me how to go hunting, which I always thought later in my life was the stupidest thing he ever did. It's like he was trying to, at the same time, be my warden, my abuser, and trying to act like a dad. It was a very confusing situation. So he taught me how to hunt. And so one night at 2 a.m., after 3 days of him just, I think it was less the beating and more the mental, his words were cruel about my family and about me. I picked up the rifle. I woke him up at 2:30 in the morning. I put it on a chair because I couldn't hold it. He'd have to hold it. And I'm crying now. I'm soaking because I'm pointing a gun at my dad. That just feels, it still feels wrong to me, even though it, and I was like, "You're going to stop hitting me because you have to sleep." But I'm crying now. So you have to imagine a kid crying with the gun on, with the rifle on there. But I'm like, "You're not going to hit me anymore." He got up. He walked out, and I just didn't see him again for a day. But I could hear him in the other room on the stairwell outside, half screaming, half crying, half freaked out, half, I don't know. But after that day, never did anything again. So
My God,
that's
George,
pretty much
that is.
how it happened. But I'll never forget it because I was shaking, and I felt so awful about it. I still, a part of me feels bad, pointing a
You
rifle.
felt
But
awful about standing up for yourself. Isn't it terrible how they condition you to feel bad about standing up for yourself?
the standing up for myself, I didn't feel bad for. I felt bad for the fact that I held a rifle on him. That I didn't like.
But sometimes
I mean,
these kinds of people
correct.
only understand that, George, you
Right.
know?
No, I know, but it's like you don't want to ever lower yourself. Fight back, yes. Defend, yes. Put bullies in their place, absolutely. If I was bigger, I'd have knocked them out. To me, that would have been like fair. I did. But I'm a Texan. Taught me how to hunt. I'm like, okay, there we go. I put the rifle on there. Again, it wasn't that simple. I had to drag the thing. I'm surprised he didn't wake up because I couldn't lift it. I had lost a lot of weight because a lot of people in my family were heavy, and he's like, "You're not going to be fat like them." So he monitored like everything I ate, everything I did. It's like he would measure it. And so I think I had lost, a lot. It's like I was a little scarecrow. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I stood up to my first giant. And then years later, it's kind of like what I based the channel on, is that everybody can defeat their giants, and whether it's in culture or Hollywood, the Megans, you name it. You can stand up to people. It just takes will. That's what it took, was will
And persistence.
and persistence. So what I learned from the whole experience is that everybody has a strength within them. You just have to tap it, and you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Too many people today are just, they don't want to rock the boat because it's going to change the comfort level of their life. And that is the trap, that the people who are polluting culture, the Western world, that's what they count on. People do not want to change how they're living. But you know, the moment that you start standing up, that very second you go, no, this is right, this is wrong, you get stronger. And each time you move forward, you get stronger. And you realize, wow, I didn't really need to be in the position I was before. It was, might have been cushy or soft or nice, but it makes you weak.
Yeah, and people usually resist when you point out, like you say, when you get them out of their comfort zone, they get angry at you, or they get, because you're kind of putting that on their faces what's wrong, and they don't want to look at it, because if they look at it, they will have to do something about it, because otherwise they'll feel bad just looking at it and not, like, and not doing something about it themselves.
Right.
But I mean, I have nothing but respect and admiration for you. I wish you were my son sometimes, but I have my kids.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
But I'm just so in awe. I mean, I mean, if there is a little 6-year-old little boy or something like that, I mean, what would you tell him the alarm bells, especially when a parent is telling them, oh, you don't believe, what would you advise him to do so they're not believed? I don't know if I'm asking you
Yeah,
that.
no, I know what you're asking. Well, the first thing, the alarm bell, is when a parent tells you to lie. That would be the first thing. And that's what triggered me, is when he told me not to tell my mother about the trip. That's because before that, I was like, yeah, we're going on an adventure. He's like, think of it like Disneyland. It was like, what kid would say no to that? Especially then when you add the school year, you get to miss school. A kid's going to be like, this is beautiful. But when he said, don't tell your mother that, that's like, it triggered something. I was like, yeah, that doesn't sound right. And the fact that I waited 2 weeks to tell her was still, it's like, I even felt bad about that. I felt I should have told her the first day, but I was like, oh, it's my dad. He has a good reason. The other thing I would do is the problem is he had planned it so well. It's like I had told even my mother, I told her everything, like the stuff that he would buy, the storage that he had it in his apartment. So when she went to check up on it, it was empty. It's like he was always a step ahead. What you can do is constantly try to get away from the situation. That's what I would advise a 6-year-old.
This is also a cautionary tale for the adults, if they're listening. For parents, if any of you beautiful people are listening, your parents, and your kid comes at you with this, listen, do listen,
Right.
because, oh my God.
Yeah. Again, though, that's my mom, she tried everything. So I never fault her for that. She literally went everywhere.
No, I understand that,
No,
because she
but
did
the hardest part about that is that he had an entire group of people helping him. So I'm thinking, how would I advise someone? It would be, if you're going to have a kid who's going to say something over and over and over and over and over and over again, I don't care if all the facts in the world disagree with it. There's something there. Even if you think that they're making up in their mind, just take that 10% chance and go, what if this is 10% right? And just take precautions.
And how
That's what I
about the
would.
adults that were helping your father, that he said in the
Oh,
States? I mean, how did
they
they
came
feel
to
about it?
they came to regret it later. They told my mother, "We're so sorry. We didn't know." They betrayed her. They betrayed me. They betrayed my family. Some of them didn't say anything. A couple of them, I don't know how you would put it, if it was karma, life. It's like one of them, as soon as a year after I was rescued, their 18-year-old had gotten into a boating accident. And then, like, skiing, and gotten into and gotten brain damage.
Oh
And
my,
that woman had gone to my mother's like, I'm paying for what I helped your ex do to your son. I'm
and
sorry. Look,
no, not only to you, but to the whole family, to your own
right.
mother, you know.
And my mother felt bad. She's like, you know, she's like, the
I would,
universe, God, it always finds a way to.
yeah, I wouldn't forgive her. I say, you know what? Well, I'm sorry about your son, but I'm not forgiving you. I'm sorry because you know you went. What happened to you? You can't take it back. It's not like somebody bought a gift that you didn't like and
Right.
could take it back to the shop. It changed who you are. You and even though you're thankful and it made you who you are, you didn't need to go through that.
No, that's why I said I would never wish this on anybody. But I looked at the situation and I was like, I'm going to take the good from it. Because too many people look at something that bad that happens and they fall into a hole, fall into the abyss. They become the worst parts of themselves. They let it mold them. I'm like, no, no. I'm going to make my future my way. I'm going to use what I learned from that. I'm like, what did I learn from it? I'm stronger than I know. I'm stubborn. I can fight back. I can defend myself and I can win. Damn. I'm like, I discovered it. That's how you move forward. Other people get lost in it. And that's, I've tried to help several. But
That's amazing. So that's how you ended up doing your YouTube channel. You founded that to have a voice or to be able to reach people, to tell your story, because this is a great cautionary tale for parents out there. You know, like if your kid, you know, kids. I know that some kids may make up stories, but if your kid is insisting on something, even if it's a grain of salt, you know. But is this how you started your YouTube channel? What was it? How did you originally start it? What was your aim for it?
my aim was to be able, I just was seeing so much around me that I felt I wanted to talk about, to be able to try to impact change, to try to be able to empower people. Again, looking at how Hollywood has polluted the culture, and then you have the school system, which goes along and teaches the things that Hollywood is pushing, whether it's on the big screen or on the little screen, and then how you have special interest groups and politicians, and it becomes this vicious circle where I'm going, nothing looks like the way it was from the 80s or 90s, and we had a pretty good time then. I'm not talking financial, I'm talking about societal.
Yeah, the morals. Everything was pretty straightforward back then.
Right. You used to have people on both sides of the political aisle. We could say someone who's left and someone who's right. They could disagree with one another, but then they could sit there and talk, have dinner, grab a drink. They
And they
weren't.
even make jokes. They even made jokes, George. You know, we used to joke about it. You know, now you can't. I mean,
No, now you're enemies. And it's like half my friends are what I would consider to be liberal, and the other half are conservative. They get along because I know that that's John. I know that that's James. I know that that's Jamie or Marcia or Melissa. It's like they're not identified or branded by what they believe in. They're a human being. And I looked at that and I'm like, who is doing this? Who is trying to divide us instead of unite us? Who is trying to shatter the community and neighborhoods and families? And I'm like, I wanted to talk about it.
oh my God. And how did you end up talking royal, how do you get involved with the royal? Because that's a huge leap, you know, from such an intense, such an intense, I mean, experience. Yeah. And is it something that you saw that was wrong or something that, you know, you see is blatantly wrong in life? Because for me, that's the lying part that bothers me.
As I shared earlier, lies to me, that they're just like poison. And pride. What bothered me about Harry and Meghan, well, one, the royals, I was raised from my grandmother and my mother. We always would listen to Queen Elizabeth. It's again, my grandmother helped hide British soldiers. So we were raised with a great respect and a reverence for the
Oh,
British
really?
royal
Your
family.
grandmother did that?
Oh, yeah. She won after the war, didn't win. I don't know why she would
She
say
was
that word.
awarded.
Yeah, when she was awarded, when she was 17 years old, she would hide British soldiers in her home with her family, working with the Greek underground. And then a communist, which is why we had communists also, besides for the many reasons that they destroy society, a communist turned her in. And then she got tortured for 6 months. And then she was later sent to Auschwitz. After the war, I believe it was General Alexander who awarded her a certificate and a medal. The medal, she said, was stolen in the 60s. Someone broke into the house, but she had the certificate. But we were always raised with a great deal of respect and admiration and learning the history of the royal family. And because I'm a history buff, I also had a great deal of respect for him and grew even further. When I saw Meghan and Harry, in the beginning, I shared the same, like, I wouldn't call it fascination. I was like, well, cool. They look happy. Great. It was the wedding day for me that kind of triggered it. I'm like, why is this here? Again, I wasn't paying attention to it. I'm like, good luck, long life, God bless. Okay, I'm going to go look at something else. But my family had gotten together and they were watching it. And I was like, where's her family? I was like, where's her dad? Okay, why are all these celebrities here for somebody who has no career? I mean, basically an extended cameo marathon. Bit part. I mean,
Oh my God, that is so good. An extended cameo marathon. That is so good, George.
she was basically what people in Hollywood would call a working actress. Not famous.
Yeah.
But go on Fringe, you do the Suits, you do this, but 1 or 2 episodes, and then the Suits, which lasted 9 seasons, and she did 7. But the point is how is she having Oprah, George Clooney, Idris Elba? I'm like, wait a minute. And so it just started making me think. And I started paying more attention to it. And then I started listening to what she was saying politically and culturally. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. You cannot have someone in this position being, and what I mean, someone in a position of authority, in a position of having the world cameras on them and influence, who is trying to help what I consider to be the woke mind virus reshape the world. And so that was when I started paying more attention to them. And when I started catching one lie after the other, again, not in words, because I don't know them. I don't know what's going on in their minds. All I can judge anything by is I judge by actions. So I started seeing one action after the other, contradicting the words that they were publicly sharing in interviews, to the press, to their people. I'm like, this isn't adding up. And it ignited my interest that way. And I was like, people have to know about this, because they're not just, I think, what are there, 44 monarchies in the world? Or
Meghan is 42. She's going to be 43, and Harry's going to be 40 this year.
Right. But how many monarchies are in the world? Isn't it like 44 total monarchies? Is it 44?
Yeah, I think so. One of them is elective. I think it's in Budka, some place like that they re-elect them, the monarchy every 4 years. That's, I think, one of the only ones in the world. But yeah, there's about 44 monarchies. Yes.
So think about that. I don't discuss those other monarchies. Why? Because they go, they lead their lives, they serve their people, and that's it. You had an individual here, 2 individuals, Harry and Meghan, who are trying to use the influence of a monarchy to push an agenda while funding their lifestyle. And I found that, I found that almost reprehensible, because they represent to me everything that's wrong in our society today. It's the complete hypocrite. It's someone who's saying, I am for climate change. Follow me, believe in me. I'm an eco warrior, and then take 32 private jets. So they're doing one thing, they're saying one thing and doing another. And that type of rot is at the core of half of our problems today. You have two-faced people who are continuing to say, follow me, but don't do what I do. You do what I tell you to do. And that's exactly what Hollywood has been doing. So I started seeing the connection to this cultural battle that's going on. I'm like, I see Harry and Meghan as the prime examples, kind of like the Pied Pipers of let's go into the abyss.
And it is, you know what? I sometimes wonder, George, if they're the product of what's going on right now, because if they had grown up, if this was happening in our time, and I said, well, at least my time, I'm 55, they would be called immediately. I mean, I fully believe, and I don't know if you agree, that Watergate and all those scandals, that like they wouldn't be able to happen right now, because people would condemn the person who would expose the president. Instead, it's like the person exposing them, they're in jail, they're canceled. Right. Why do you think that people are so against that they don't want to, that they follow it. Because, for example, Harry gave a little speech yesterday about Travelist. He's a man who takes, did you see that? I mean,
it was ridiculous. He was trying to act like, I think the Daily Mail put it like, I think, and I'm paraphrasing, it's like Harry's trying to act like the tough guy, giving a tough talk. I'm like, you mean the silver spoon spare who is so spoiled, he takes like a private jet to go from one side of the house to the other? I mean, it boggles the mind. You cannot be talking about climate change. It's the same thing that I have against, it's not only Harry and Meghan, against some of these, Leonardo DiCaprio. He took
Leonardo, such a waste, Leonardo,
He took a private jet to go to a birthday party for 2 hours, only to turn around to go to a UN conference on climate. I'm like, gee, it's not, see the hypocrisy there, and hypocrisy drives me crazy because in the end, at the core of it is a lie. And as you can tell, I have a big problem with lies, especially when those people have a degree of influence and they can impact the world, whether it's in small or big ways. So that's why I talk about them. And when listening to Harry talk about Travelist and the ecotourism and let's keep, fighting this way, I was just like, this is silly. But did you notice something? All of his events lately have all been choreographed, meaning they're no longer live. Now alive.
I'll tell you something I haven't told anybody. Actually, one of my sources, because I do have sources, he can't be there because before he was able to sneak in, but now it's absolute control. He can't even get in. I mean, and he was able to get in, and then this other friend I had, and be around the event. Now it's really, really controlled, George. I mean, like X, Y, and Z are gonna be here, and I don't care if the other one, that's it. I don't know if I don't care if it's the lighting guy. He's not coming in. If it's the lighting guy that's here, that's going to come. And even if he gets sick, then we don't get another lighting guy.
Right. The problem is they think that by basically producing their own lives to this minutia, to this level, which is like, okay, we're going to do a Travelist event. We're going to do the polo event, but we're only going to allow X number of reporters in with pre-selected questions. You're going to give a statement. They're doing that so they can't be caught in a trap. No gotcha moments, nothing off guard, nothing that can be pumped in the headlines. I get that, except there's a problem with it. When you make something so controlled, you are showing everyone actually what your intent is. You're showing your fear. And that makes everything worse. Why? He showed up at that event last Friday for that polo match in Miami where Netflix was filming. Either it was Thursday night or Friday morning. I don't recall the date, but he spoke for about 20 minutes on Africa. Again, controlled environment. If a real reporter had been there, he would have said, what about the Baka people of the Congo? You just said you love Africa. Sentabale means this, and this is close to your heart because of your mother. Right. Without that reporter there to be able to ask that question, what does it look like? It looks like a guy who's putting on a PR event as a puff piece for his polo and for Africa. Cool. Now everybody's going to start asking questions. Why didn't you talk about Africa, about the Baka people? So they give themselves away. It's the same way they did America Riviera Orchard, right?
Oh my God.
So they send out the jar of jam.
Did you see the label falling off? And one of the things, oh my God, the label is coming off of the jars. It is. And I actually work in food and I export to the US and Canada. And I can tell you, you need so many things in order to sell food.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. I just saw the pictures. Well, I'm glad you're going to have to tell me more. But what I noticed is in the last 24 hours, after this started really building in the news, you have King Charles's jam is selling out all over the UK. Because see, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. They live in an echo chamber of their own creation, Meghan and Harry. But that's not the real world. That's why they keep bumping into it and having troubles, because they're not authentic. We go back to
the word. That's the word.
No, they're produced. Sorry.
No, but that's the thing that Meghan Markle and Harry left the UK because they said that everything was controlled. Even that engagement interview was staged and they wanted to be themselves, you know.
They're less themselves. We can only judge them based on their actions of who they are. So based on who they are from when we first saw them in that interview together, right, which they called stage, they're now more staged and controlled than ever before. That's why the further they go on, the phonier they look. Themselves, they are doing it to themselves. No, there's no one from the outside doing it. People can only report on what they see. For example, the filing yesterday that came out for Harry, that his residence is now the US and California. Okay. That right there proves to me at least four things. One, they're probably having serious money issues, like it's been reported in multiple papers that that's the possibility, because he has to now pay the inheritance tax that he's been pushing off. Because in the UK, if you have a domicile there, you got to pay an inheritance tax because it hasn't been revoked. Two, he's doing it to bluff his father so he can get some kind of like wield it kind of like a weapon, I believe. Look, this is serious. Give me what I want. Half in and half out, and my apology or no. But I looked at it deeper. If you take a look at the permit, did you see that the day that it was filed? June 29th, I
Oh,
believe
yeah,
it is.
June. Yes, last year I actually reported on that, and because I said I reported from a different stance though, because I said Harry has officially moved to the U.S. I can't prove it to you guys, but I do have a source that says that he has officially moved to the U.S. And I don't understand how he can be Council of State, because according to the Regency Act, it says that it has to be a British-born citizen. It has to be over the age of 21, or if it's the heir or presumptive 18 above, and has to be domiciled in the
Thomas.
United Kingdom. And I said, and I even made a video about the difference between domiciled and being a resident. And
Correct.
I said, how can Harry, who is residing, is officially a resident of the there? And I said, the only thing I can think of is because domicile doesn't change, unless in order for you to change domicile in the United Kingdom, you can even you have to have a trial in the United Kingdom to renounce to your domicile, because domicile, and I didn't understand that. So I had to research it and I said, what do you mean he's domicile? He's not there. And then they explained it to me. Your place of domicile is unique and it takes a lot for you to renounce it. And you can have many places of residence, but you're only domiciled in one place. And at the time, people were calling me a fantasist that Harry would never declare residency anywhere else. And like, yes, he will. But
Absolutely. I agree. The problem right now is that when you look at the date that I think the Daily Mail released the actual.
It's the 29th of June, 2023.
Correct. But that is exactly a year to the date. Again, their actions, that's how you can judge people. Their actions show they're vindictive. It is a year to the date from when they removed their last items from Frogmore. The same date.
So petty, isn't it, George?
Right. But that's what I'm saying. When you have people who are hyper focused on vengeance or envy or greed or lust for fame, it comes out in the wash. This is why their popularity dwindles. It's not because you have all of us on YouTube and some reporters who are calling out the facts. It's because people see it, whether they all understand it instantly, but it's something in the back of their brain that goes, this just doesn't feel right. Why would you do that? Why would you announce America Riviera Orchard an hour before the Princess Diana Legacy Awards? It's one thing after the other. It's always to ride someone else's coattails, to hug the spotlight, to make fun in one way. I'll give it to you this example. You remember last year when he went to the UK for the Well Child Awards. Instead of asking them to postpone it by a week, it was the night before the anniversary of Queen Elizabeth's passing.
Yeah, I remember that.
Typical response would be like, guys, love this charity, been supporting it for years. We have to push it by a week. It's my grandmother's anniversary of her passing.
And they would have understood. From what I understand, they actually offered him to move it because of that, but he refused. He said, no, I want to go ahead with that. And you know what's interesting, George? Given your background and everything that's happened, you a lot. I guess family to you would be important, and loyalty. I mean,
Oh,
your father couldn't get you, beating you and torturing at 6 years of age to change your mind and change allegiance. And here we have Harry. He's such a, I mean, can you imagine the queen, a grandma,
no.
watching that mocking? I mean, when did you think, when did you think that they really gone too far?
Oh, I thought the minute too far. They've done that since. I think they started at the wedding, but it started happening in greater degrees. It is when they released the Harry and Meghan, the Netflix series. To me, that was and then Spare right after. Both of those were like atomic bombs because they had control of that. They allowed themselves to mock the Queen, which means at the same time mocking the United Kingdom, the more than 2 billion citizens in the Commonwealth nations, and then to have people who are speaking against the monarchy and the Commonwealth nations. You remember the lady was
Yeah, I
like,
remember
oh,
that. Yeah. That stupid
and
woman.
that means they put their rubber stamp on it. And ever since then, it's been one attack after another, whether it's overt or covert. It's just they don't seem to learn. Every time a member of the royal family is supposed to have an event, all of a sudden you get press releases from Montecito about one of their events, or a video comes out, or you have Princess Catherine releases her news. They go quiet for a few days and then boom, 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 boom. Instead of like going, have a little bit of decorum, do whatever company you're going to do, put it on the back burner for a while. This is not what you do, as long as you hold titles. Now, you want to live your life, remove your titles, remove all connections to the royal family, and then go do whatever the hell you want, because now you have nothing to do with them. But they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. It's like, we're royals, we're not royals. We're royals, we're not royals. We're Hollywood royals. You know what I'm saying? It's like that is the hypocrisy. And that hypocrisy is what has kind of like an avalanche gone down the slope. And it's what younger generations are looking at. That's what really pisses me off, because they look at that and they go, that's normal. Oh, these people work
Yeah,
only an hour a week. They
they're
admitted it in their
normalizing this kind of behavior, right?
exactly. Mhm.
And
And that's
George,
why.
what do you think of the visa, Harry's visa? Because you know what, I have a feeling that he's releasing these little tidbits of information that he moved to the US because he's afraid that his visa thing is going to come out. I mean, what do you think of that? And I have to ask you this. Did you see the US ambassador in that interview?
Yes, where she was like, he won't be deported. What's her name? Janice something
I
or
worked
James?
I worked as a diplomat. I mean, you know that getting diplomats to testify in court, they're the hardest witnesses
Yeah.
because they will never say yes or no. They will they will weasel their way out of everything. I know because I used to do it. But what did you, I mean, please do tell me about that, because
No, I was researching it. I think I said it in my last video that after research, I spoke to 3 attorneys. Then I also found some online. I was looking at all their own research. I said, I'm 90%, I think, correct, not 100, that he is in the United States on an A1 head of state visa, not full diplomatic visa, but it is similar to a diplomatic one, because it says every member of the royal family, senior working royal or not, has, outside of the king and a crown prince, an A1 head of state visa. So I'm like, okay, it's not too big of a conclusion to make that he's here on an A1 head of state visa. But that has certain privileges with it. And I think that's what they've been trying to hide for all these years. And that judge, Carl Nichols, I believe is next week or the week after about to release it. He's going to at least say his decision, whether it should be public or not. And I think that's why another reason why he's doing all this. But when you get back down to boil it all down at the end of the day, what do we have? This all comes back to the king. The king. You cannot, by law, as you just stated eloquently earlier, you cannot, by law in the UK, have a non-domiciled person being a counselor of state. And he's now one of 7, which means he can step in for the king. But he's now a resident in the US. So the king is going to have to, I can't use the words I want to use. The king is going to have to
you can actually.
I know, but what I would say it'd be rude. I don't like when people are ill and they're fighting something to be.
But you have to call things by their name. I really believe that it doesn't give people the right away to get out of
Right.
everything. But if you
No,
don't feel comfortable,
no, it's not. It's just he has to step up. I won't be crude, but he has to step up and make a decision because the fact that he cannot, as well, he can. It looks bad. He cannot, as a king, as the head of state, be condoning an illegal act, however small or however big, and then try to lead by example. It just doesn't work. You can't go, oh, this is my son, we're just going to ignore it. You can't. Because then what are you telling the people? You want them to uphold the law? Or not your son? No. He has to. He has to. And all this is because of the fact that he didn't want to stoke tensions. He could have done it last year, or was it in 2022 or 2023 when Parliament, when he added in Princess Anne and Prince Edward as counselors of state. I can't remember the date, if it was 23 or 20.
it was December 2nd, 2023, actually, that they passed that, 2022, that they passed that, that he requested, because I did write to Parliament and they replied to me, because a lot of people were saying, George, oh no, it's only working royals and Harry's not there. And I went like, I'm going to write to Parliament because I don't want to speculate, you know.
Right.
So, and they wrote back to me and I showed the email and they say, this is counselors of state here.
Right.
And this is the royal website, right? And then, and you're right, in the event that the king cannot undertake his official duties as sovereign on a temporary basis due to illness or absence abroad, 2 or more counselors of state are appointed by letters patent to act in His Majesty's place. What is really interesting, George, is that here in the old website, it used to tell you the law that they had to be British born citizens, that they had to be over 21 years of age, and they had to be domiciled. Now they've only left it that who are over the age of 21. They've removed it from the royal website.
Right, but the law is still the law. They haven't changed the law in Parliament, have they? Unless
No,
something
no, they haven't actually. But here, let me show you this, because it says here that the current counselors of state is Harry. One of them is Harry, is Camilla. Here it is. The current counselors of state are the Queen, the Prince of Wales, the Dukes. I don't know where they put the Duke of Sussex, and the Duke of York, and Princess Beatrice.
I thought Princess Anne was there. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought Princess Anne was one of them.
No. I'll show you. I know. I'm going to forward you that email that I got from Parliament, right? And I asked them, because I asked them, number one, can you please confirm who the current counselors of states are? Number two, if Princess Anne and Prince Edward have replaced, if they have replaced what's his name, Harry, or you know, and they responded to me and they said, no, I'll show you right now here so you can see it, and I'll send you the link for that because you can see it. This is literally what it says here. This is from UK Parliament. This is the actual bill here, and it was passed December 2022. And what it does, it simply says, whereas your majesty, by your majesty, whatever, to be increased to include her royal highness, well, Edward and Anne. But when I asked them that, because I specifically asked them these questions, they said no. Her Royal Highness, his and her Royal Highness are not there to replace anybody, but to be called upon in addition to. Gotcha. And this is directly from the thing. And this is all it did. It just added them as extra people.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes more sense than the way it was reported. I like that. Thank you for sharing that. I like that. Yeah, because the way it was reported. No, thank you. Because the way it was reported was much different than the way you said. I like the way what you have. You have it right there. You have the facts.
Well, I write to Parliament. People can write to Parliament and they will respond. I mean, I had to write 5 times before they responded, but I have it in writing. And they said no. The current, and they even sent me the links. They go to verify who the current counselors of state are. We refer you to the royal website, right? The royal webpage. And because people are saying no, it's only working royals. And I said no, because I also asked them that, and they said no. It's because there's nothing in the law that says they're working royals. It only says that they have to be over the age of 21, British citizens, and they have to be domiciled in the United Kingdom. So
So that
my
was
my
sorry.
videos have been, George. So why the hell is Harry as counselor of state?
He can't be by law. He can't be by law anymore now that his residency is in the U.S. But that it's just funny. It's funny in a weird way how every act that they take just unmasks them further. And instead of achieving what they want, they just expose themselves for who they are. Like Polo.
Oh
Polo
God.
of all things, why in the world would you do Polo as a series? Like that's going to endear you to people around the world who are like, yes, can you please understand that you need to have about, anywhere from 50 to 200,000 to $500,000 to buy your horses and have a stall for them, take care of them, go to the matches.
It's
It's not,
expensive.
I know it's not. I looked it up. They said the horses can start at $2,500. You have to have a string of them. They can go all the way up to $500,000.
Yeah,
And then the travel,
it's
feed, taking
expensive.
care of. This is not a series of sport where you're like, yes, you too can go play polo in your off time. Like, where is the connection? There is no connection. Martha Stewart, for example, when she succeeded, is because she had been a caterer for 20 years.
Yeah, she
So
knew.
she knew how to talk. What are you going to have? You're going to have Meghan in a $15 million mansion who's turning around going, let's make some jam. And oh my God, look who just showed up, Kim Kardashian. Oh, and Serena. Like, I see it being a curiosity. Her show will probably get big numbers when it comes out for the first couple of weeks, the same way that Harry and Meghan did. It'll bring in the curious people. I think it'll be the same way that her company, it'll probably sell a few things, but the market that she's going for is based off of having positive publicity because you're selling something. People have to have a positive impression of you. Right now, I think she has about 28% of America, at least, who support her. That's not a big market share. When you take that 28% and then you slice it up by how many people have that money to spend, how many are wanting to buy those things, it keeps shrinking the percentage. I'm like, and you're doing what? They should be on their best behavior now. So then we go back to their character. How does their character come through? It shows it's selfish, it's vindictive, and it's petty. Because when you want to push a company like that, a brand like that, you don't pull this crap. Oh, the residency thing comes out. I mean, we may not even know if this is a strategic move. He did the residency permit, like we said last year. But how do you know he goes, oh, this is a temporary thing? Like they just jump from one thing to the next. It's like I would say half of their actions look like they want to set up straw man arguments so the press will report it so they can respond, so they can blow it up big in the headlines. And the other half is to build their brand.
Don't you think though? Because this came to me, somebody from one of my friends who works on Netflix said one of the reasons Netflix doesn't really cut ties like Spotify did is because what if they go back? Especially because Harry and Meghan keep putting all these articles that they might go back and they want to have, like, I don't know if you know this, Ted Sarandos is getting the Order of the British Empire medal. That's one of the highest honors, and it was picked by Charles.
That I didn't know. That's
You
new.
didn't?
Wow.
It made the
No, I didn't
news.
know that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't
he
know
made the
that.
news about 2 weeks ago. King Charles personally picked him. Ted Sarandos, who's an executive at a company, is getting the highest honor, which is the British of the OBE.
Yeah, I know what the award is. I just didn't know he was getting it. Because when you
Yep.
tell me that, my first thought is his dad is still trying to look after him. Which, see, as a father, that's one thing. But he's a king. He has to do first what is right for his country. That's why I said I'm looking forward to when William is king.
Yeah, I'll send
Because
you all those articles.
yeah, I didn't know that about the LB, but it makes sense. But I know that their Netflix contract is up in 2025. Either they're going to renew it or drop it. I just have a funny feeling based on the only success that they've had so far has been Harry and Meghan. Yet it was well, no, I know that was the thing. It was for 2 weeks. The most watched documentary on Netflix ever. But after that, it didn't break into the top 10 anywhere. That's why I said they bring in curiosity, but I don't think that'll be able to continue to go. I just don't think Meghan's show will work. Harry's definitely not. Polo. Why don't you just go do water polo? I mean, that's.
You know what would have been great? I'll send you this too, because maybe you have more. I am absolutely sure you have more contacts about it. I don't know if you're aware of this, but when Harry and Meghan got married, Harry invited people from Sante Vale, right, to be part of his thing. He invited people from Sante Vale. And the young boy from Africa who attended Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding was Mutsu Potsane. Prince Harry befriended Mutsu when he was just 4 years old. But isn't it funny? Because Liketso, the little baby that he founded Sente Vale on, who's now 12 or 14 years of age, he abandoned her. I'll send you the article, because he promised that he was going to raise her, make sure that he provided the medications and everything. So 5 years later, she goes and says, you know what? We're living in poverty. Nobody's giving me anything. So Sente Vale went and gave her 22 pounds. And now she's come back again, and she's like, can you please, because she has HIV, and the grandmother's worried because, and this is the kid that Harry founded Sente Vale on, Liketso. Okay,
right, but
he wasn't invited to the wedding.
Of course not, because she's not famous enough. It's the same thing with Africa Parks. It doesn't address it. I bring it up now in every video just to keep it reminding people. And I get people are constantly, thank you for bringing it up, because it's important. Again, actions. Words are cheap. Actions prove who we are. He can say all day long he loves Africa.
It's horrible, because this is a man with a huge platform. You know, like, and Meghan, like you said, they are very influential, not because of who they are, but because the monarchy and British monarchy, the reason why we're talking about them is because it's the monarchy worldwide. They're, as you said, the Commonwealth, 2 billion people, you know, like with that, George. So they had such a, and they've used and abused that platform for personal gain, for spite, to throw world tantrums because they don't get their way. I mean, you saw that he lost that court case.
Yes, and now he has to pay up £1 million minus 10%, I believe.
But why do you think Charles is still helping him? Why do you think Charles gave that thing to Ted Sarandos?
I think he's weak. That's the reality. I think King Charles is weak. I think he can't separate being a father from being the king. I think. Obviously, I'm not certain. We haven't seen. But I think Prince William, when he's king, will be able to. Like, just the way he approaches things, he looks like he is able to go, okay, here's my responsibility as king. This is who I am as a brother. That's one of the hardest parts when you read through history about royal families, is many times a king or a queen will have to do what's always best for the citizens and the kingdom first. And sometimes the family suffers because of that. But that's your responsibility. That's what it means to be a monarch. But every time he turns around, I don't wish to besmirch him, but with that Ted Sarandos thing, wow. Because there's so much news that happens. It's like, even me, I miss a few things, but I didn't catch it.
What I'll do is I'll keep sending you articles, because there's a lot of things that I get, like, and people don't understand, because and like you know what I wonder is, like, are they being rewarded? Because shortly after they made that announcement that Ted Sarandos was getting an OBE, suddenly Meghan Markle and Harry got immediately 2 shows that Netflix is giving them, you know, like, because they were dead on the water.
I still don't think anything has changed. I think they're just fulfilling their contract. See, I don't think this changes anything. I know that the 2 shows they're going to do. Come on. Do you really believe the polo show is going to be successful? I just don't believe it. When you look at, okay, the cooking show, if it's done right, but again, you're talking about somebody who had Spotify, who had archetypes, and it bombed. It rose for, again, a couple of weeks. That seems to be like the trajectory, 2 to 3 weeks for the curiosity. And some of her fans. And then when you don't release a good product, when you don't connect to the people, it falls flat. Where is her connection? How does she connect to everyday? Cooking shows are about connection. Connect to me. How? Why do I care about watching you? Because the whole Hi, we're here with Duchess Do Nothing today, who's going to be cooking up a frittata. Like, how does that for the first 14 days? Okay, let's watch. Oh, let's look at what her house is like. That's what's going to pull people in. Oh, look at her kitchen. Oh, look. Oh, we learned something new.
Oh, but she's not recording it in her kitchen, by the way.
Which she was supposed to. So I'm sure that's changed now.
Yeah, it's changed.
So if it's
But
not going to happen in her kitchen, then again, there's no point to follow her. It's a cooking show. And how many cooking shows have there been in the last 10 years? 100 that I can think of off the top of my 100, and they just disappear because they go on every day. Where is the catch? The catch is it's a former royal with a title who was a cameo actress and who's now married to a prince. Okay, she's going to cook. She's going to have a few stars. So it's archetypes, but with cooking. Cool. We saw how that went.
Yeah, and the thing is that I interview Auntie. Sometimes Auntie Lawyer comes here on my show, and we do that. And he was saying that there's a show on Netflix. It's called The Chef, where this guy apparently, who's an A-lister director or something like that, he gets these famous chefs, and apparently this guy Auntie was telling me he actually knows that he spends time in the kitchen himself, but he's humble about it. When he's in the presence of these big chefs, Auntie and I were like, yeah, I love that show, and he goes, yeah, but he's very humble, with the chefs. But Meghan, I don't think she'd be able to be humble. I think she would be talking down to anybody who comes there. You know what I mean?
Unless you remember her first Archetypes episode was Serena Williams. She spent 11 minutes from the introduction, hi, we're with Serena Williams today, talking about herself. Okay, that's not what a host does. You don't. You're like, hey, today we're going to be with so-and-so, and people are here to watch you host your guest. Not, well, let me tell you about my dishwashing soap, or how I wrote to Procter and Gamble for the 1500th time. How Harry and I just don't think it's going to go anywhere. Curiosity chasers, it'll pull in and then it'll fly away, unless they've learned their lessons, and they change everything. But I don't see anything new. It's just odd. I
see the celebrities still sticking to them. Serena Williams with them at the polo. I wonder if Oprah's still with them, and Tyler Perry. I mean, I haven't heard much from Tyler Perry. What do you think about that?
I don't think it's Serena Williams again. Great. A has been. She's become a mother, a wife, and that's it. So we're talking, do you see A-listers today? A-listers sticking with her. Tyler Perry, producer, billionaire. Cool. Oprah Winfrey, billionaire. A-listers, where are the A-list actors, the A-list studios who are like, you have our best and brightest with you? I don't see that. You see Kim Kardashian, reality stars, talk show people, and producers. I just no, I don't see it. I see the circles that she's going into is what she wants to do. It's reality show, talk show based. I mean, do you see anyone else? I don't.
No, I want to ask is because this is actually quite relevant about this. Never, whether they have children or not, let's assume they do, and this is them. You went through a very not normal childhood for the age of 6. Mm-hmm. We see that Harry and Meghan are flying everywhere, spending so much time away from those children in their formative years, taking vacations away from having vacations. Like they went to Dusseldorf without the children. They popped by Portugal to have vacation, and then they went to this Caribbean thing for more vacation without the kids. How do you think that's going to play in the psyche of those children? Do you, I mean,
oh, it's going to be like any, they're acting like your typical Hollywood multimillionaire celebrity. The nanny raises the children, and we see you for your birthdays, maybe Christmas, holiday, hasta la vista. I mean, that's the kids come out. We see it. We see celebrity kids all the time, how messed up they are. And there's a reason for that, because there's no one around to give them love, to give them a foundation. I mean, it just doesn't work. When you see Prince William and Princess Catherine, they're always around their kids if they're not doing an event for kids. You don't see them going like, okay, they're always interconnected with their children. They took time off before the whole surgery to go, we need to spend time with our kids, get them adjusted in school. You hear that. You see it. Actions, proof leads to character. What do you see with these two? Well, we're in Jamaica. Where are the children? Okay. We're in New York. Where are the kids? We're in Germany, where are the kids? We're in the Bahamas, where it's like, dude, it's like, who's with the kids? It doesn't matter if you had the greatest nanny, grandmother, uncle, whoever the hell is with them. Mother and father are needed. So.
And Meghan, especially Harry said that, oh, you know, his father wasn't around and he missed his father and loving care. And then that he didn't have his father drive him, go on a bike ride. We know it's a lie. But Meghan getting on that mental health thing with, I can't remember that wanker, that interviewer. Oh, Meghan, what's important to your family is important to me, other than marrying this one. I mean,
the mental health in New York.
Words don't match their actions, right?
Right. They don't. That's why I always say actions show us character. That was in New York when they did that. I think it was with the Surgeon General. They had him on the panel, the Surgeon General of the United States. Yeah, I'm with this one. Too funny. I have to get going soon.
Oh, no, it's okay. But I'll let you go, but you have to come back.
Okay, I will come back.
Yes, thank you so very much, George.
Thank you for having me.
No, but we'll have to do this. But of course, this is great that we leave it like this because we have a lot to talk. And
Absolutely.
you know, like, thank you very much. And I'll leave all the links for your show and stuff like that. Thanks for being here, sweetie.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much. Look forward to the next time.